Hello and welcome to this edition of Stitch in Time. Lending apps have been in the news, several of them dubious. Lots of complaints coming in from consumers about having been harassed, having been cheated, and a fraud having been perpetrated on them. So how do these lending apps really function? To understand all of this and what you can as a consumer do, joining me today is well-known financial expert Harsh Rungta, who has been for years writing and speaking on issues pertaining to consumers. Thank you very much, Mr. Rungta, for joining us here on Money 9. My first question to you, could you explain to our viewers what are these lending apps? There are some genuine ones and there seem to be some dubious ones. Could you explain the difference between these two?
Like any other business, the lending app has a range of players. There are, of course, the perfectly legitimate players who are serving a very important need of providing convenient, quick, and within that frame, reasonably priced credit to borrowers who are looking for short-term borrowing. And by short-term, I mean 3 months to sort of 12-month kind of borrowing. These are perfectly legitimate apps and they are fulfilling a perfectly legitimate need of the borrowers. The second series, which is a type of players, which is I would say not probably is ranging towards the gray, are those apps which on the back have a non-banking finance company. It is that non-banking finance company whose money they are using, but they don't provide the name of that non-banking finance company, and they have some dubious practices in terms of collection practices, etc. Then even further towards the spectrum of black are players who lend their own money but effectively use the license of some kind of a inactive NBFC, who then takes a commission for allowing their name to be used, but that NBFC is not really lending its balance sheet. And fourth, which is clearly on the completely black side, some of them, as we have read in the papers, are Chinese owned, and they are doing the function that in the physical world, your a village strongman or somebody who's well politically connected who lends money does. Even those people in the physical world are not really registered under the Money Lending Act. They have usurious rates, but still they at least have a community connect with the borrower. Here you don't even know, it's a faceless lender. And what they do is, I think they use two things. One is the threat of legal action. I mean, there have been reports that they send out forged FIRs, forged court cases, which are not true, because the police is going to register FIR. But I think it reflects on the credibility of the law enforcement agencies in this country, that people are ready to believe that FIR probably could be registered by the police or they could take action. So that's one plank of how they collect. And second plank is social shaming, which is basically because you have downloaded the app, they download your contacts illegally. They will contact your contacts and tell them that you are in default. They will call them up, threaten them, defame you, and I think that is causing the maximum havoc. And there have been reports of at least 3 or 4 suicide.
So Mr. Rungta, as a consumer, how can I get to know which is a legitimate app? As you said, there are many legitimate apps and doing a proper practice out there. And how do I differentiate between a legitimate app and a dubious app? Because as you said, it's faceless. Probably when I go onto the app, it looks perfectly fine. So how do I differentiate as a consumer to protect myself?
So first, I think is obviously the normal thing. If something looks too good to be true, if somebody is giving you even say 10,000 rupees without asking you anything, is giving it to you for 7 days, you should wonder on what basis is this person giving me this 10,000 rupees. So that, I think, the first shot itself is a great warning sign that if something is too good to be true, it probably isn't true. Second, of course, that any valid lender who has an NBFC license or who's acting on behalf of a valid NBFC would have the names of that NBFC. They would insist on doing some documentation. The documentation can be online, right? But there would be some documentation that will lay down what are your rights, what are their rights, how they will do the collection, what is the grievance redressal machinery. And so therefore just pay attention to those emails that come. Whenever you do a transaction, an email will come. You might be asked to sign documents online. There might be Aadhaar authentication. Please remember, if that somebody is lending you some money and he is not doing any authentication, that itself is very fishy. And you should wonder on what basis is he lending you that money, even though it may be a small amount of money.
We read recently about the RBI setting up a committee to look into the regulation of these lending apps. But pending that, today, if there has been a problem that a consumer has faced by going to a particular lending app, what is the regulatory recourse, Mr. Rungta, that I can follow as a consumer?
So I think there are two things. One is that either this lender that you borrowed from is regulated or it is not regulated. If it is regulated, I think the normal regulatory machinery is available. There are complaints that you can make to the RBI. Unfortunately, NBFCs are not covered by the Banking Ombudsman scheme, but there are grievance redressal machinery that the NBFC is required to have, which you can find out on their website. So if it is a regulated entity, I think you are in a much better position, and majority of the complaints from a regulated entity would disappear once they are threatened with exposure to the RBI. So I think if they have, and some NBFCs would do it, but if they have done, I don't think they would continue once it becomes clear to them that the grievance redressal machinery and that you will follow it and make the complaints, because for them that license is important, that NBFC license is important, and they know that RBI would crack down on them. The issue comes with the unregulated one. On the unregulated one, as I said, they have two modes. If they are threatening you with FIRs or if they are threatening you with court cases, just ignore. Okay, I mean, no court, no police, no court is going to take cognizance of an unregistered NBFC's complaint. The issue is on social shaming. Okay, where they talk to your contacts, they set up WhatsApp groups, and they sort of bombard your contacts with defamatory content about you. That is a problem, and I think making a police complaint under the Information Technology Act and taking action seems to be the only possible solution around that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rungta, for joining us here on Stitch in Time and sharing your advice with our viewers. We hope that this issue, this mess that has got created, will get resolved soon, and consumers will not get cheated by these dubious apps going forward. Thank you very much.